Hey guys, just a quick heads up before you dive into this episode. It's not our best when it comes to sound quality. It was our first time that there were three of us total. We learned a lot of lessons. You'll see what I mean. Just bear with it because the episode itself is amazing and the girls are amazing and the content is great. But the sound, you'll forgive us. Hello, we're here for another episode of DENtalks. We're so unbelievably lucky to have Elizabeth Kott and Steph Simbari here, the girls behind That's So Retrograde podcast. If you haven't checked it out yet, do yourself a favor. It's an honest and very funny take on the wellness world. They're both fierce ladies who have done very well in their own rights before That's So Retrograde took off. Elizabeth, co-founder of the Zoe Report and creator of Closet Rich, and Steph was a successful actress and comedian and writer. They're an unstoppable team, but just because their life looks super charming doesn't mean it always was, and we will cover all of it. Also, at the end, don't forget they are going to lead us in a personal practice, which is a connection practice, correct? You guys, I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you.
A, because you're so much fun, so I know no matter what, I'm going to have a good time for like the next hour.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. It's all about me. So let's start from the basics. How did you two meet?
At a party.
Really? Just a party? LA?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, was it love at first sight or no?
I think so.
Yeah, for
was
sure.
It?
I felt like I think we both were like, we already know each other.
It was like a familial comfort thing at the get-go.
Yeah.
And so then you guys just started hanging out all the time?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So how long were you friends before you started doing the podcast?
Well, we were friends for a couple of years, and then we started writing comedy sketches together, fashion comedy sketches together.
Which blends both of who
We
they are.
really often loved merging genres.
Yeah.
It's kind of our thing.
Yeah,
Things that
exactly.
don't go together now go together.
Yeah.
I know, which I love about your podcast.
And so that was a really just incredible creative experience for everyone involved. Like we had two other girlfriends who.
Now, were you a writer at all, or was this a total?
No,
I had taken
an improv class just for fun, and then as I was driving to the final like UCB performance thing, I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to write comedy sketches now." Like it just was a very clear, very, very clear hit.
And you're like, who do I call?
Yeah, I knew exactly who to call. This one. Yeah, it was. And then so I had a company called Closet Rich, which was an online consignment business. And so it was a way to sell the clothes. So we styled all the actors that were in the sketches in the clothes that were available.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. And they were all fashion related little anecdotes that we turned into sketches.
It's basically like an abortion sketch, but like us shopping in a store and like us arguing about if it's a purse or a handbag in a car.
So what is it, a purse or a handbag?
Purse.
It's a purse.
Do you hate handbag?
No, that was just like
it was pocketbook was the thing.
Oh, yeah, she was
and we kicked her out of the car. We're like, get out of here.
I got it. Pocketbook does feel like super old.
Yeah. Wait, then what was the
It's also like panties or underwear.
Yeah.
Right. Ooh, they're both
One.
bad.
I know they are both bad.
I never really said panties.
I know. I don't like the word panties.
Or
but people-
slacks. That's a hard one too.
Slacks is hard.
Yeah.
Pants.
Pants.
Pants works.
Yeah.
I,
I say underwear, I think.
I think I say underwear too. You?
Underwear. Yeah.
But people say panties all the time.
I just don't.
Really it feels really young, which is what makes me like feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I could go off on a whole nother thing.
Right.
About to be like hairless or not hairless. What are we doing?
What are we
Let's have a
doing?
whole different podcast.
So we had that experience together, and then just by way of all these crazy fun events that the universe put in our way, we started doing a podcast.
So who was it? One person's idea? Did you guys come up with it together? Like how was it born?
Well, I had an opportunity to pitch podcasts. So I was styling a show for the E! Network, and the production company it's a whole long like connect the dots thing, but the production company that was doing the TV show was starting a podcast division as an incubator space to bring different concepts into different mediums. So they thought like, okay, if it works for a podcast, then maybe it could go into digital or TV.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's like
And then
the podcast is the world, and nobody gives a shit about bringing in the other
Exactly. And
So
then I
interesting.
knew I had like grown up with the person who was head of that division. And she
like
had
legitimately grew up, not
literally
like in the
grew up,
industry,
like
at home.
literally knew her since I was 5 years old. And she previously had been at WME. And she had just got me into the room for various meetings like throughout my career. And then she just happened to be now working for this production company that I was styling this TV show for. She was like, give me any ideas you have. And then that happened. And then Steph came in and the concept evolved. And then here we are.
I love that. So your two friends, I'm sure you get asked this all the time because friends do fight sometimes. Like, is it hard to like navigate the relationship at times?
Yeah.
I love how you both look at it. Who dares
it's
answer
not
this?
like unbearably hard, but it's like we are friends and we talk every day about work. And so it's like naturally, I think with any relationship.
You get annoyed with each other, right?
Yeah, of course. And like, but what we've been
who's
able...
more annoying? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, obviously, I think she is and she thinks I am. But we've been able to do something really cool, which is because we do a spiritual podcast, wellness, whatever, blanking.
Mindfulness, consciousness.
All the words of the day.
We were early on able to work with one of our astrologers who basically like laid out our charts side by side and was like, this is your deal, this is your deal. We actually have like incredibly like crazy corresponding composite charts where we're like mirror images of each other.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
They're all like, every single reader is like, you guys know you're like soulmates, right? And we're like, everyone does
Everybody trips out. Like anyone that looks at our chart trips out over our charts as a composite chart.
Oh, I love that.
So that's definitely been like helpful. I mean, I think moving forward in my life with anyone,
you
like,
would do that.
When I get a serious partner, I'm going to be like, before we go any deeper, let's
because it gives you like an overview. It's like it's like a roadmap to like the two of you together.
100%.
Yeah, we basically did couples counseling for our working relationship through astrology.
Yeah,
have you through astrology? Have you ever been in a fight while doing a podcast? Like, have you ever been in a fight that hasn't been able to been resolved, and you're actually interviewing someone?
We've definitely been like
and there's like underlying shit happening.
We've been like passive aggressively annoyed with each other, and then finished a recording. But we don't really fight like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we fight about anything. We're just like cunty sisters.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like, it just happened before we got here.
Yeah.
And it's
really?
cool. Yeah.
I love it. Should we talk about it? What happened?
Oh, it was just like run of show, like confusion, and then just kind of, but we always confront it right away.
Yeah.
We don't really let things like
Are
fester.
one of you more like, do one of you confront more often than the other? Like, is one of you more...
No, I think
using the word aggressive.
Pretty equal.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, this happened.
Yeah,
like,
because we don't ever want it to like fester.
Yeah,
so we always just say the thing if we were annoyed.
I mean, look, it's what also makes your podcast so amazing is the balance of your personalities. So it's obviously working.
Thanks.
And you feel like
High
sisters.
fives.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, I think that when you're close with someone, with the luxury of that is that you aren't afraid to be your full self, whether that's like pretty or not. And
that's what we're all striving for.
Right. And like when you work so closely with someone, you can't be like nice. You can be kind. We try to be kind, but then sometimes we're just like passive aggressive or aggressive aggressive, and it's just like that's the way it is.
And then we let it go.
And then we let it go. Like there's
good.
not like a holding on situation.
So Elizabeth, you're in a relationship, right? And you're not, because you just said when you're. So do you feel like, are you a third wheel sometimes? It's like, do the three of you hang out a lot? Or is
I
it more?
feel third wheelish with them because I actually introduced them.
Ooh.
So I like knew Joey before. Sorry, can we not name drop?
You can say it. You can say it.
Peter Joseph Greer. So it's like I feel like so inside in like a beautiful way to like their relationship. The only thing that is hard for me is just being like not in one in general sometimes.
Well, I was going to say the question probably what I should have said more than third wheel, because that's not what I was going for. Was more, does he ever feel like the third wheel?
Oh,
is really what I think I should have asked.
I
feel like you guys, in a weird way, are such a beautiful, lovely couple. And like you said, the fact that you can be yourselves completely around each other.
Yeah.
Is it hard for the other person?
One of the things that's really special about him is he can hang.
Yeah, he's very easy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have that same, and maybe I'm getting too personal and feel free to tell me to back off. Do you feel like you have that same openness with, like, for me, to be honest, like I sometimes feel like it's harder for me to show that part of myself to my partner than it is for a girlfriend.
Right.
Like for a girlfriend, I have the ability to like strip it down so much more than like with my partner. Do you feel that at all?
No. Well, what's interesting is, Steph's a comedian and so is Joey. So, and you understand, like rolling with that crowd, it's like the rules are different. Like it's a different type of openness. It's a different type of listening. It's a different type of just interaction that I don't really want it any other way. Like, it's the most fun. Like, I feel very honored that my close group of friends are all these, like, insanely talented, funny people, and I just kind of get to, like, roll with them and be witness to hilarity.
And me and Joey have an ongoing fake rivalry.
Yeah.
Where we hate each other. Where we like get on the phone, he'll like call her on Bluetooth, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, Joey. And he's like, I don't want to fucking hear from you, Steph. And it's like this fake, like, really fun.
And then I joke that it hurts my soul, and I can't deal with it.
I just want you to get along.
It's a whole bit.
I love it. I love it. So you do play act, what I was kind of
It's fully just like
fully
a joke. Yeah.
Do you guys, so now you do this podcast that's obviously in the spiritual wellness, mindfulness, what other words do we use, world?
We try not to use wellness because we think that word's turning gross.
Ooh, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that now.
Yeah. The article just came out that's $1 trillion industry, and I think once things get monetized in that way, I mean, God bless.
I'm just happy about that.
Yeah.
For, like, a myriad of
It's good for all of us.
It's good for all of us, but
Then it feels like
it's just overly used, and it's like, what does that word mean? Like, it's such a nuanced word that means something different to anybody. So it's just more like, what is the show? It's consciousness, it's alignment, it's well-being, it's living the good life.
How do you feel about the word authenticity?
Yes, love. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of other words I feel like are used a lot that some people, it's like their panties.
Right.
I feel you on that word in that way.
I actually like it because every time I try and find a different word, I always go back to it.
My authenticity in terms of trigger word is curator, curation. That's another
which
one.
you guys probably get all the time.
Well, from
that
fashion, that was like the hot word.
That's interesting.
As I was coming up in
What
it.
about like journey?
I mean,
great band.
Yeah. I don't care about that one as much. I mean, look, they're all just like things to describe a great thing.
Yep.
So to be too upset about any of them, I think is sort of like bad for our business and our brand.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that we don't want to be categorized as a wellness podcast because that's becoming like such a populated, saturated like corner of the world that we're just like, it's more than that, and we're not doing it to be buzzy. Like, I think we nailed it a couple months ago when we were like, we're just like trying to find out what's good.
So how do you feel about that? Because I get it too in a world that I feel it also. It's becoming super saturated, and I find that on all prongs of it, which means locations, trends, which you guys dive into all the time, trends, teachers, leaders. How, since you guys are out there and you're diving into every single one of them and testing them out and experiencing them, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like you guys have a good bullshit meter? Do you feel like you're able to see? Do you feel like you fall for it sometimes? Like, how is that?
That's a great question. I think at the beginning of our show, we've been doing this over 3 years now, we were very much like exploring the trends because that was the gateway for us, right? So like, I cringe when I think about like our juice cleanse episode.
Right.
Like that to me is like,
it's like obviously
because I would never do a juice cleanse
Me
now
either.
Right.
in a million years.
Yeah, I know.
And like no shade, but we both love chewing a lot. So that's just like not for us. But I think in that particular episode, we were like very gung ho about a juice cleanse.
But sorry, not to interrupt you, but the thing about the juice cleanse, it's not just we want to chew. It's like now we have increased knowledge about what your body actually needs to cleanse,
such as fiber.
I was just gonna say one of those things is fiber, and so when you're just drinking juice, your body isn't like doing its processes. So now that we have more information, we're like, oh, sorry that we sold you that idea.
Yeah, but like
that's okay because we didn't know.
And that's part of the
in the
journey.
Like our whole thing, like one of the mantras that we picked up from one of our guests down the line was permission to be the beginner.
Yes.
And when you give yourself that, like it's perfectly okay in my heart and soul to like own up to be like, we were beginners. We didn't realize, like you said, we didn't have the information. Mm-hmm. So,
but also if you're honest about where you're at and you're just owning, you're representing exactly yourself, which I think is, I mean, I felt the same way when I opened up the den because people are like, oh, do you teach? You do this? I'm like, no, I don't teach. Like, this is why I'm opening it for this reason. And I'm not going to pretend I'm opening it up for like I'll own my role in this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was actually easier for me to do that. So I never felt false in anywhere I was
yeah,
working.
we're just holding space.
Yeah, like we've
holding space should be another one.
I think in the beginning we were like,
let's talk about all the keywords as we go through. We'll just ding them. All the words you're going to hear a million times on this podcast.
I think in the beginning we were trying to be, experts in some capacity, and then we very quickly realized that we didn't know anything, and we're like, okay, from now on we're just going to be curious explorers, and from that place it's given us the liberty to grow and admit when we're wrong and fuck up and whatever. And that way, it's not like oh, now we don't have to take responsibility for ourselves, but it is a little bit like, hey, we're just with you. We're just figuring it out
too. So now do you feel like you've had a few years in this, you've learned more. I'm guessing from all the work too, you're probably just more in touch with your gut and yourself. Do you feel like, and also the world has grown a lot, and so people are entering it left and right, and some are beautiful and magical and amazing, and some are like, I need to pay the bills and this is another way to do it. Do you feel like you can sense that difference?
Absolutely. You know, it's really cool. Like, we've created a platform in which people want to be featured on. And that is like, I mean, that's nothing we would have ever, nothing we would ever plan for. But when that happens, it's like a huge honor, and we don't take that lightly at all.
You should celebrate it. It's amazing.
But, you know, there's a lot of like pitching and like, you know, people reaching out, and that's really cool, but that's not really how we do it. Like, it's very important to us that people who are featured on our show, who we speak to, are part of our everyday wellness exploration. So like, we come to them in like whichever way, whether it be just happening upon them by experiencing a class, or meeting them at the farmer's market, or a friend who's been on the show has then recommends somebody. Like, that's more how we do it, because like, coming from a blind email, like a pitch, just,
it's really hard.
It's like commodifies it.
Well, it's the same thing, because I get pitched for teachers all the time, and that we have them come in for demos, because it's like, you can't just hire someone off their resume in this world, because so much of it, it's bigger than that.
And, you know, we've had experiences with, you know, a million different kinds of readers, whether they be psychic or
energy.
Yeah. The list goes on. And I think what's just crazy is that there's so much like irresponsible behavior in that.
So what do you feel, and you don't have to mention names, like what to you, especially like with reading, because that can be very irresponsible, because you're dealing with people's energy.
Yeah.
Do you remember any like moments where like, oh fuck, when that was over and it just felt not okay?
Well, a couple of different times things have happened where we've been like, we've got to shut down this space for a second.
Like, no more readings.
Like, and we went probably almost a year like saying like like it wasn't until I met Shannon really that I was like, I'm open to another intuitive person.
Shannon Aganza, who's an amazing
astrologer, right?
But it's
amazing.
When you do shut it down, then your bullshit meter goes up, because you're saying no, so then you know what you should say yes to.
A lot of people are like, I really want to Reiki you.
Yeah,
and we had to be like, no.
Get your dirty energy off us. Like,
but that's what I mean. Like, especially with people wanting to, like, because you are such a great platform. Have you ever left feeling like something was off?
Well, I'll say something. Do you mind if I share the thing? So we went and got readings. Well, it wasn't even really. What was it really? Was it a reading, or it was more like a?
Which time are you talking about? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And the person said something to Elizabeth like about her relationship, and it was just like off base, negative, presumptuous, and hurtful. And then, like, literally in the middle, I was like, okay, like, you're no longer allowed to communicate with her, because you're using whatever skill or talent or intuition that you have, and you're putting it on someone who clearly not in a space to receive that, and isn't aligned with what you're saying.
Didn't ask.
As a reader,
didn't ask. Well, that's a big thing.
Didn't ask, and as a reader, you should know that. You're so fucking intuitive, you can't tell that you're saying something damaging to a person. Like,
bedside manner is a huge thing.
Especially in this world where people, I mean, see within you, I mean, in whatever regard that means, emotionally, intuitively, energetically. Yeah.
But it's like what you said, where it becomes about their ego and their own need to prove to you that they have that ability.
Don't you find it fascinating, the ego in this world? Because it is so...
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And I'm sure both of you can talk to this, because, you know, Elizabeth, you come from the world of fashion, and you come from the world of, like, entertainment. So it's not like any of us are strangers to the world of ego. But I think when you kind of work in, like, this business, you expect it to not be as present.
Yeah, but that's why I'm literally writing a show about this, because it's the funniest thing in the world.
So tell me your take on it.
It's so funny. Like, there's no place where ego is funnier than in a shaman.
Right.
Because they're so diametrically opposed that the only place for them to meet is where comedy is thriving.
Yeah.
So I kind of, if it's not directed at me personally, then I can see it as very funny.
I know, when it's directed at you.
But if it's directed at me, I don't do well with those kinds of things. I'm very confrontational.
It's fun. I've seen it so many times too, where I'm like, how am I seeing this clearly? Like, I'm not the spiritual leader here. Like, how am I seeing so clearly what's happening to you? And you're the one who's actually like supposed to be the teacher.
I mean, it's like Wild Country.
Yes. So did you both watch that?
I didn't finish it, which
so
is
it's
so
a doc,
weird.
People don't know.
I know.
Talk about Osho that was on Netflix.
Which is like that. I love a good cult doc, and it just like it took me a second, and I haven't finished.
It took me a while too, but
yeah,
it got when they all went crazy is when it got really.
Yeah, I haven't turned that corner yet.
I was like, I don't know who I am anymore now that I finished watching this documentary. Like, so good.
Well, because it turns everything upside down.
But it just raises like the essential question is like, can you be a leader like in that sense without ego? Is it possible for a human being to transcend their ego? Like
at that level.
At that level, when so many people are putting you on that pedestal and you're like receiving all that
and they're
energy.
making you God.
And they're giving you material gain too. So his whole thing was like, I'm a spiritual materialist. And it's like on some level, I feel like we are like that too. Obviously we're not Osho, but we're like, we could have nice things and be conscious. Like it's not one or the other.
But you're also not purporting to be.
I think that's what.
Not yet. No.
Yeah.
Well, by the way,
call me.
But that's interesting too, because I mean that's an interesting conversation of like the monetary transaction. Like everyone does in the modern day world, you got to take care of your shit.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you shouldn't be able to make money. And I don't know what the answer. I don't know if it's how you identify with it. It's like take care of yourself, do well. Yeah. It's okay to make money if and help people, but. I think how do you identify with that money? How are you identifying with it coming in, and what are you attaching to that? I think the answer is that you have to give more than you receive. That's a good one.
When you are at that level, like you can't be like he was like adorned in jewels and driving
the Rolls
$300,000
right?
cars, and just like he was amassing so much wealth, and like yes, they were giving the teachings, but they weren't giving like in a way that was really bringing another level of human up. And I think that's why he became like so inaccessible.
And then he disappeared for you, like, right? Didn't he not speak for like 4 years or something like that?
Well, then, but he was speaking in private. He just wasn't publicly talking.
Right.
He was speaking in private and like having orgies and taking laughing gas.
It always turns so weird sex.
Yeah.
Like that's just like the through line for all of
these.
That was
his whole thing.
And he was always about like connecting to, which look, I mean, there are like great arguments, but yes, it did. The problem is then it gives it all a bad name because people think it's just this weird sex cult.
But, when you ask one of the questions you ask is like, what was one of the influential books? And like, to be honest with you, like Osho's book, Love, Freedom, and Aloneness was like so influential for me at 20 years old.
Did you know any of this about him? I knew nothing.
I did.
I did not.
All I knew, because I read a bunch of books and then I like caught wind of just this information, which was like, then it got weird and they poisoned an election. Like that's all that I knew.
They poisoned an election.
Yeah, they wanted to win the town, so they poisoned everyone. That's all I knew. I didn't know but then the way that it came to me was it was the people, it wasn't him. But it was always like that. He was always like shrouded and protected and like worshipped.
That woman did go a little crazy.
Tough titties?
Yeah.
Sheila?
Yeah, Sheila. Tough titties. Perfect descriptor.
I love her.
She was great, but she went a little crazy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's when it's like the reverence getting in the way of like sometimes practicality and common sense. Yeah.
Totally.
Which I think we've all probably seen. It's amazing. So were you guys spiritual before? Did you have a spiritual practice before you started this podcast? Were you like, how much of this started when you actually went on the search in the podcast, and how much of it was already inherently in who you guys were?
I think I was like spiritually curious, wellness curious. It felt very like inaccessible, which is I think the big motivation in starting these conversations between Steph and I is like we would be curious about something, we'd be Googling it, and it just like didn't feel like they were speaking to us. Like it didn't feel like the information was accessible or like reiterated in a languaging that felt cool.
Understand that.
And we were like, okay, what if we had those conversations? I mean, that was really the precipice for the show. And then like Steph and I both did yoga teacher training separately, life training courses, all that fun stuff. And so we both were on.
I love that you have like a life training course.
Well,
but did you guys actually take a life training course?
I did.
What was in a life training course?
Well, it was in Costa Rica. It was actually with the guy who's across the street. His name's Eric Pascal.
So, and he's like, so it was beyond just yoga?
Yeah. So it was two parts. There was the life training course and then the yoga teacher training.
Electric Soul Yoga.
Yeah, but it used to be, I forget the name. It'll come to me. It's a yoga studio out of Michigan that is also
Yoga
here.
shelter?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
There you go.
And
why the fuck
their whole pitch is like, well, there's courses for you get trained to drive a car, you get trained for whatever your job is. Like no one's training you how to do life. So the I can't remember the guru's name that there's a book that's kind of all based off of
Mike.
And
Guru Jared.
and it was super helpful at that age. I think I was 25.
Like, what were they teaching you? Was it like just how to make decisions?
It was like
kind of thing?
daily practice and like the importance of like study and
Just how to bring like
the whole thing was like 30 days, no alcohol, no drugs, no sex. You had to be completely vegan. It was really just like a cleansing of your like current practices that might be tripping you up and like kind of opening your mind into a more clear modality of thinking.
So you guys both did like stuff like that. I kind of love that they have.
I went to Costa Rica and did that.
I just did like yoga teacher training, but
I learned nothing about life.
yeah, no, I learned about the fascia. No, but I was more like into spirituality, like in like right in the beginning of college. I was I only recently started talking about it, but it's only because it started coming back to me. It's like I was very like religion curious as a child, but I grew up with a Catholic family and a Jewish family, so it was like I was almost separated from it because
were any of them influencing you at all?
Well, my Catholic grandma was like really influential to me, but then like my mom kind of caught wind of like her trying to like make me Catholic, like low key under the radar, even though she was cool with me being Jewish. So then it was like I was kind of taught that was bad in a way, you know, where it's like you can't go. But I just love like the reverence of like a spiritual place. I always felt that power, but I never liked like temple. I never liked the structure of it. So I kind of like separated myself from it. And then when I started reading like Osho and things, like literally that was like one of my first introductions, and like, you know, Tibetan books about,
you know, let's not take that away from him though. Like,
no,
and everything we just said, I mean, he's still
me.
like been such a huge influence for some. I mean, the fact that you're even saying that was kind of the gate that opened you up is amazing.
Was, yeah.
You know, a little sad when you find out stuff later. But.
It is, you know, and it's like I'm 18 years
is.
old and I'm suddenly, I remember when I had my bat mitzvah, like the one thing that I was obsessed with was, did you have this where we had to go to like all different places of worship to like study religion in order to like
super open.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I remember we went to Universalist Unitarian Church, and the fucking Bible was like a binder of just like passages from every religion, and I was like, this is the coolest. And that's kind of when I realized that like everything was saying the same thing, and I needed that because coming up in a household that was like, we were so not religious because they just didn't connect on that. My parents are divorced, if anyone was
like it started there.
Yeah, that was pretty much the basis. But then like the Osho stuff, and then discovering yoga in college, and then it just kind of was just like, oh.
So it's so interesting because when you talk to both of you, you clearly had it in you.
Definitely.
Always. So now you both did very different things, but how did you get on these other paths, and talk about how you got off of them? Like, and not by off, you might not be fully off of it.
Right.
So, but like you helped co-create the Zoe Report.
Yeah.
So like what happened there? That's like amazing and huge. Like, are you...
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what that started as. And now they just sold a bustle. Like, it's wild.
Are you so proud of yourself? You should be.
I think now, yeah.
Are you so proud of yourself?
Like, it's very cool to be attached to that.
Being proud of themselves.
I love that
I
question.
think that's a great question. Yes. You know, I was hired by Rachel when I was freshly 24.
And that's incredible.
And
my lucky number, by the way.
Nice. And you know, like what a amazing cool thing. Like I was an actual fan of hers and what she'd created, and I've always just been so drawn to people who create their own paths. And I think she's such an amazing representation of that, and just like what other quote unquote like celebrity stylist was able to just like charge the way in the way that she did. There's been many after her, but you know, I feel like that was just such a, like, she just kind of like set that trend in such a cool way. So it was really fun to help build that brand and what that looked like. And I think the reason why I was hired is because I represented their audience. And I think that that's a little bit of the through line throughout my career. It's like always been like an innate understanding for what a demographic wants and is looking for. So
but that's a talent, because not everyone can do that even when they are part of the demographic. It's a huge talent.
So, you know, with so with the Zoe Report, like that, there was that. And then when working at the Zoe Report, it was me having like a constant influx of clothing coming in. And like, what do we do with this as women? Like, I'm at work all day. I don't have time to go try to sell it. Like, wouldn't it be cool if someone came and picked it up and then sold it and I got a check in the mail and I wouldn't have to worry about it? And then even the stuff that couldn't sell, like, let's find a cool charity for that to go to. And that's how Closet Rich was born, which was my other company. So I was just like, it's like, what's the saying? Like when you, invention born from necessity. So that's where that came from. And then, cut to, so Retrograde, like, it was just like a lack of information and a curiosity for the conversation.
And when you left Zoe Report,
yeah,
and then you sold your company, did you ever have any moments of like, what the fuck am I doing?
Well, I was fired from the Zoe Report, and it was heartbroken. And
how did you repair ego from that?
I went on to Costa Rica.
I took a life class.
I took a life class. I started practicing yoga. This was the most important thing, and I'm so happy it happened to me in my 20s when it did, because there was a definite cool factor with being aligned with something like Rachel Zoe, to be a girl in fashion and have an @Rachel Zoe email address. Like, I would go, like, I remember I was shopping at DVF in the meatpacking district, and they wouldn't pay any attention to me, and then I bought a dress, and then they asked if I wanted to be on the mailing list, and I gave them my email address, and
everything
5
changed.
women flocked to me, and they were just like, all of a sudden fawning over me. And that was really representative of just kind of what would happen with that alignment to that brand.
Right.
And so whether I liked it or not, there was a lot of ego wrapped up in that. Yeah. And I don't think that I walked around like peacock feathers about it, because that's not my nature, but I definitely like inwardly thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Especially, I'm guessing you were 24, you said, right?
24 or 25, yeah.
So I'm guessing a lot of your friends around you were struggling and having really shitty jobs.
Yeah, I feel, everybody, at the time, like, the digital fashion world was, like, kind of a teeny, small group, because there was, like, the Who What Wears, and we were all kind of, like, within, and, like, the Refinery 29s, we were all kind of, like, in that same world together, because it was really just starting. Rachel's newsletter and Goop were just kind of started at the same time. There wasn't really that medium, hadn't really flushed out as much as it has now. So a lot of people in my world were doing similar things. A lot of people, obviously, trying to be actors or that kind of thing, but everyone was kind of in the world. And
so you attach a lot of identity to it.
I have so much identity, and I didn't really realize how heavily my identity was attached to that until I didn't have it anymore. And then I had to really realize who Elizabeth was without that attachment, like any job, like no job.
But you are lucky that was in your 20s.
It was the
best
lesson ever, because even, and it's an interesting dichotomy, because so much of what we do now, like, it's just us. It's our lives, it's our experiences. But at the same time, like, I feel like there's a healthy relationship to that because of what happened back then, and having to really kind of had that teared away from me.
And so as you like meandered and made your way, and now that's where Retrograde is like kicking ass. I mean, it's doing so well. Was there ever a point where you're like, I'm never going to figure this out? Like,
yes. So, with Closet Rich, I had created something, and then 4 years later, I was like, I don't want to sell used clothes anymore. Like, that's not what I want to be doing. I hate going to the post office. I hate running a website. Like, I hate doing this.
Yeah.
And it felt like I felt trapped. Like, I couldn't conceptualize a world where you could just put something down because that looked like failure. And I really had to inwardly grapple with that, of what, like, would I be abandoning a child? Like, I've created this, it's a big thing, I'm stuck with it, I guess. Like, that was really, it was so depressing. But, like, everything kind of happened in a way that, we were doing the show, and I was kind of dialing the dial back a little on my efforts towards Closet Rich, but the universe kind of, like, showed me that That's So Retrograde held a very important place in the world before we even intended it to. And that was really through feedback from our listeners, of people who were like, this changed my life. Like, I heard this on the show, and A, B, and C happened, and now this has happened, and thank you. So there was, like, every single day, there was a daily reminder to keep going with the podcast, and that it was okay to shut down the other stuff.
And then stuff with you, I'm imagining, just because of the industry you chose. It's like filled with rejection, even if you're
I
when you're
didn't choose
successful.
it chose me.
Oh, there you go. But did you feel the same way? Like, did you ever feel like, was everything super smooth for you in your path moving up? Or, but I mean, like,
yes.
How did you deal with, like, either rejection or getting thrown off your game?
You know,
like, was there a time you felt really like, I can't be doing that anymore, or that's not working for me, or?
I have had a much different path than Elizabeth. I became a comedian at 22, or like right when I turned 22. After like graduating theater school and thinking I was going to be an actor, and then I came out here and was like kind of doing that and discovered comedy, and I was like, oh wait, I'm funny, what's going on? And, like, this is a thing. And so once I started doing stand-up, it kind of was just like my obsession, and I didn't have like any material identity outside of like just wanting to do that. Like,
Well, in that sense, it's similar.
Very but there was the only, I guess, like the sense of like coolness that you were explaining, like that is how I kind of felt, because it felt like so like rogue and gangster to be like literally like my whole life every day for 7 years. Maybe like I was intensely doing it for like 6, and then I sort of discovered my own rhythm after like 6 years, and then completely stopped doing it. But was just every single night going to like multiple open mics with like a gang of comics, and like we would do shows, and then we would go eat, and we'd be out till 4 a.m, and then I'd sleep till 12 or 1, and then I'd like write some jokes, smoke some weed, and do it all over. Like that was my every single day. So I was just living this very like, it was
Hamster
like
wheel.
Yeah, but it was what I wanted, because I was coming from a space of like everyone on the East Coast being like, this is what life looks like, and like these are the things that you do, and like this is like the way that you accomplish, and this is the way that you identify. And I just was always had a sense of like, fuck that, you're all miserable. And like that I tried to be like a commuter for a year when I lived at home. I like had a job and was on antidepressants, and was like, after work I would like go to the bar with my coworkers, and I'm like, this dead life?
Not for you.
Can't do that. But there did come a point, I think, when I did the teacher training for yoga, which I don't even know what made me want to do that. I think I was just doing a lot of yoga, and I had a boyfriend at the time who was super into that stuff, but also was sort of smothering me. And I kind of think I needed to do something that was like just mine, just for me. And I discovered the idea of like calming your mind, and that was in conflict with doing comedy, because comedy is all about attaching everything to every thought and figuring out how to make that into something.
Yep.
And so that became my obsession of like, how can I calm the chitta vritti and also be a comedian? And I was just like obsessed with that notion, and I would ask everyone about it. And something that really changed me was I saw Gary Shandling on the Paul Provenza's Green Room, and he was talking about that exact thing and being like a spiritual comedian. And he like, for like, you know, a large chunk of time didn't do stand-up in his realization of that. And then I was like, how can we still do it? Like, it just became this thing.
You wanted to figure it out.
I wanted to figure it out. But then the more that I went deeply into that line of questioning with myself, the more that I realized that like the behavior and the lifestyle that was stand-up was not creating like happiness within me. And then we started doing the show, and it was like everything was guiding me towards like balance and well-being and like sleeping and showing up for something outside of just like going on stage and like what essentially becomes just like verbal vomit and like jerking off and yelling at people at some point. Like when you are an open mic comedian / then you like start coming up in the ranks, it's not pretty.
Right.
It's bad, and everyone's sad and depressed. It's just like gnarly. And there was one point where I was like on a mission, so I started teaching yoga at the Comedy Store.
And how'd that go?
I mean, every
people
week,
showing
people
up?
would show up. People, like 8 people would show up, and I did it for like, I don't know, 6 months or something.
So then did you took a pause? Like you stopped?
Well, no. I then I got cast on a reality show.
Which reality show?
Funny Girls. It was on Oxygen, and that was kind of like, for me, that was almost right when we started the podcast too. So it was weird because structure came into my life from 2 sides at the same time. So it was like the show, our show, and then it was that show, which was making me write more and making me, like, I was always so emotional with stand-up that if I was not feeling well, I would go on stage and just yell at people and tell people it's like that. And it was just dark. And so when you're like doing a show and you have to do something that's structured and like that really
the
forced
producers made them write new material like every 2 weeks. They had to have a full new set,
30
like
minutes.
ready for
because we were
to film.
Yeah, because we
it
were
was
writing
wild.
jokes for the plot line.
Right.
So it was a whole new like way of working for me, which was very good. Ultimately, for just
I like watched her completely shift as a human being
because I had to show up.
So it's it's interesting that
Thanks.
both of
It
you.
was beautiful.
But it is amazing that both of you, like in your 20s, just had this kind of identity and you both loved what you were doing. It wasn't like you were. I mean, you loved what you were doing too.
I loved it because I still love, my favorite thing is like having an idea and turning it into a tangible reality. Like that to me, like that's, I get off on that. That is the drug of life for me. So everything I did kind of was doing that. And now it's like still doing it.
But I will say that like I did hit a point where it really wasn't making me happy. And that was where I hit my identity crisis. And that was later. Where it was like in my late 20s where I was like, fuck, like if I stop doing this in this way, what does that mean for me as like a creator and an artist? And like, am I even that? And it just like really started to spiral.
And so where are you now with that?
I think everything is everything.
Which is great.
Now I think that it doesn't matter what you do. It's how you do it and how you feel when you're doing it. So would I rather do stand-up just for like the street cred, or would I rather do what I'm doing for my own happiness? Yes. And by the way, like what we're doing is amazing. So it wasn't even a comparison-based thing where I'm like, this one's cooler than this. It was more just like I had trouble letting go of the thing that got me here. And now I'm realizing that like I can do it if I want to, and I don't have to if I don't want to. And by the way, nobody gives a shit what you do.
No, not as much as we give a shit.
We care about what we
absolutely.
do, but no one on the outside. And if they do, they're assholes. If someone's looking at me like, Steph's not a comic because she's not doing comedy every day, it's like, okay.
I love that perspective. What's your outside perspective? Because clearly you still love fashion.
Yeah.
So when you look towards like the fashion world, how do you still bring that into your life and balance like who you are today?
Well, it's interesting. I think about this. So I had the opportunity to meet Patricia Field when I was like 18 or 19. She was the stylist for Sex and the City, obviously.
Mrs. Fields Cookies?
Yes, she's Mrs. Fields Cookies. That's actually my friend
dream.
Jen Field's mom.
Stop.
Hilarious.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Of course.
Of course.
That's why you guys are sisters.
And like I asked her if I should go to fashion school, and she was like, you don't, like, all those skills you already have, like you should study something else that will like expand your brain and then like find fashion again. So it was kind of like an interesting thing. Like, yes, I feel like I always have an innate like gravitation towards style, like aesthetics. Like that's who I am, and it's fun to be able to bring that into like whatever else I'm doing. But I think the biggest hump that I got over mentally was that it's okay to change your path. Like that was the biggest thing, because the only thing stopping me from like letting that be okay
permission.
and also letting it be okay. Like it's kind of funny if I look back on it. Like I was surrounding myself with all these like creative, amazing people going up on stage every single night. Clearly there was something in my soul that like wanted to explore that, and but I thought like I have to stay in this lane because this is where I chose. Whereas my entire upbringing, I was like musical theater kid. Like that was like my whole essence. So. I had one bad audition in college and I stopped it all because I was like mortified. I was auditioning, did a Sweet Charity song, went really bad.
Welcome to
exactly
the worst thing ever.
Of course, but I like just like, put my dick between my legs and like totally turned my back. And it's so funny how like no matter what, like having a microphone in front of my face, it found me. Like I feel like there was like I could not put a stop to it.
I was also gonna say like when I'm listening to him, thinking about. Really, the through line is like having the courage to listen to the voice inside of you that says, this is not feeling good. Or I think I'm supposed to be doing something else. And I think people
and then giving yourself permission to actually do it.
Like so many people let their entire lives pass them by with that like low grade numbing, I'm unhappy thing.
I definitely felt like I chose fashion. Like I chose to start this business. I'm stuck with it.
Right.
Well, I always say the only way to change anything is by actually creating change. Like if you don't actually take that chance, even though it might be scary, you're never going to see anything different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like the biggest, it's like, I don't want to call it a wellness cliche, but like Course in Miracles says, a miracle is a shift in perspective. And like every time I ask for a shift in perspective, like that, a miracle comes.
So do you guys feel like when you tapped into your spiritual practice, like your actual spiritual practice, that everything started clicking a little bit better? Like, do you feel like, and maybe it's separate. Do you feel like success actually was on the same line of like your spiritual practice or
no? Spiritual practice and then success, I think. Well, it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I think a big message from our show, I know that a big message from our show is that your spiritual practice is ever evolving. It can change at any moment. And it's really about tapping into what feels good in the moment. And that was something that we both had to learn to be true.
Yeah, I also feel like, in the way that we're like wellness, journey, like spiritual practice. I'm like, oh God, like because the more that I kind of expand, feel like life is just a spiritual practice.
It absolutely
and
is.
There's not really like a separation. So like, yes, meditate or take a bath or just don't talk for 10 minutes or journal or like whatever it is. Like it doesn't have to look spiritual, and I feel like that separates like most of humans from like being in their human life, which is a spiritual life, because they think that it's like one thing or the other. And like really, to me, something spiritual is just like standing in the middle of like a market and like watching people live.
Absolutely.
Or like looking up for a second.
No, it's such a good point. I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. Spiritual practice is every day, every moment, and you can make every moment into a spiritual practice. And I think all of us have gone into our businesses with the aspiration of trying to make it accessible and make everyone realize you deserve that and can have that, and it doesn't have to feel so separate. So that was such a beautiful way to say it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, like my spiritual practice yesterday was laying on the couch and watching Southern Charm, and that was it.
I mean,
which is
you and I, we didn't even go there.
That's a whole other bonus episode.
Two of us in our reality obsession. I mean, now I'm going to go back and find your show.
But oh my God, tune in. I don't get residuals. It was non-union. But, I was having this conversation with my friend yesterday, and we were both talking about, kind of questioning what that voice that enters your brain is during meditation. Like, is it God? Is it your higher self? Like, what is that? And I think depending on what you label it, it can either tune people in or tune people out.
1,000%.
So that's also kind of interesting.
And it's weird. I think people react to other people for exactly that, what labels they choose. I had a long conversation about religion with someone the other day. I'm like, it's so funny. Like people bristle at the idea of religion.
Yeah.
But yet the way you can talk about quote unquote spirituality or whatever version is can also be the exact same thing for someone else. It's like, what do you believe, whether it's about yourself or something else, or it's however you're labeling it can totally make people
it just averse. Like it completely separates us from just the experience of like, it's really just like, what do I need to know right now? Where do I need to go right now? Who do I need, like, what do I need to hear? Like, and just like hearing it or not, by the way, like you can sit in meditation for 20 years and never hear a message, but you'd still be like doing something great for yourself.
Oh my God, you're getting to know yourself.
Totally.
Which is the best part.
And that's why, I think the thing that I love calling wellness is just like self-care, because that's not encouraged.
No. But it is also very popular now of trying to figure out how to do it.
I feel like
that's good though. How do you
She's buzzy, that word too.
That's my favorite version of this conversation.
Self-care.
Because it really is just like, it's not something that was like very triggering for me growing up is my mom always called me selfish.
It's funny you say that because that's how I said that was my issue with self-care, is being able to take away the idea of I'm like spending my time doing something for myself that's frivolous.
That I was raised that was bad.
Well, I'm an only child, so I'm just like can't not think that way.
Yeah, you're so lucky.
You're so lucky, by the way. You have a step out of all of us.
But my brother and I are very strong personalities. It wasn't like we weren't like told to be quiet, but it was like if you're taking care of yourself, then you're selfish. And I think that's so sad because that was coming, and I love my mom obviously, but that accusation, which is what it is, was coming from a woman who never took care of herself and was upset and depressed, and then therefore couldn't take care of other people. You can't take care of anyone or anything if you are not taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
So if it's selfish, then I guess we all need to be a little bit more selfish in order to be better for each other.
But it's true, and I think it is getting over that hump of how to incorporate this stuff into your own life. that does make you a better human all around for yourself and for others, for your friends, for your partners, for your family. But how do you get out of the mental barrier of, yes, I deserve this time, or it's okay to take this time. I always tell people, like in the work area, I always tell people, you're only going to get better at your work. Like it only makes your work more efficient and better. And in your personal relationship, it just helps everything.
But it's like how you frame it and what's your intention.
Intention, ding, ding, ding.
Another word.
There we go.
What do I get for these? But like, if you go into the self-care thing with an intention to like block other people out, then you're being an asshole. But if you're going into it with like a loving intention and then turning around and going into your life with more openness, then that's good. But remember we got interviewed for that thing where someone was like, it was like 10 reasons why self-care is edging into selfishness or like whatever. It's like whatever. And it is kind of an interesting conversation because you know those people where you're like, sorry, I can't hang out. Like I have to self-care.
I know. It's so hard. It really is all about, like you said, the person and the way they're approaching it, period. And also it's like, if you can never like be decent to your friends because you're too busy doing all this stuff, it's probably a little selfish.
Exactly. But that's the extreme example.
Right. You guys have been amazing. I feel like I've taken up so much of your time, but I want to get to your 4 U's because they're so fascinating. We're going to start with you, Elizabeth.
All right.
So, and you can just rattle them off.
Okay.
Favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book. I didn't have that one.
Did I switch you guys up?
Yeah.
Was favorite book yours?
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote like 5 books.
Oh, but that's fine. So let's do you first then.
Sorry, edit.
Sorry. I wrote Love, Freedom, and Aloneness, which just was like so influential. Just the idea. There's a quote from the Prophet Khalil Gibran in that about like love not being possessive and it being something that like ebbs and flows between people. And that was, I needed to learn the lesson because I'm a Scorpio and like I literally just want to like possess people and like put them inside of my body.
Can we just, not to interrupt because you're supposed to be quick, but the story you talked about before we started rolling, which I thought was hilarious, about you're like, that astrologer wasn't for me because I needed them to be like answering me every single second. And clearly like they actually had boundaries, so they weren't for me.
They weren't for me, but I know what I need.
Right,
someone who's going to give me enough attention.
I love it.
And that's cool. But so that was really important for me just in relationships and just relationship with myself. It's a great book for anyone like Spirituality 101.
I love that. And inspirational. Sorry, did you have more? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was like, let's just ignore the wild, wild country of it all. And then also in terms of like being someone who creates outside of what people expect from them. And I know this is like sort of cliche also, but The Fountainhead, I read that when I was like 22 years old as well. And that also changed my life.
I get that.
Because he doesn't give a fuck about what anyone else thinks. And I didn't want to give a fuck what anyone else thought, but I was trapped. And that was like helpful for me and being like, I'm leaving New York. Bye. Like, I'm just going to follow my instinct.
It's so funny. Anything Ayn Rand, I'm always like, I want to read her at different times of my life.
Yes.
Because I feel like anytime you read it, you're going to see something.
I also
totally
read
different.
Anthem, which is like the book that's not, it's like the actual philosophical book.
Oh.
Where she like doesn't even label characters. It's just like, it has like Destiny 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh my God, I have to read that. I can't believe I have it.
It's good. And it's only this big. It's not like.
Then done. Perfect.
Like I was going to read Atlas Shrugged and I was like, I don't think I have another like 900-page book in me right now.
I did that in my 30s. Yeah. It's funny. I like you separate. It's funny. But inspirational teacher for you.
Okay, I wrote down 2 for this. Or wait, am I pulling back the curtain and saying that I wrote these down?
I didn't even see your answers, so
okay.
it doesn't even matter.
Okay. My first
curtain has been pulled.
My first inspirational teacher was my college Shakespeare professor. I always loved Shakespeare in high school, but it was more on like an academic level, and then in college is when we really did like acting it. And teachers have always been super hard on me my whole life. I think it's because I'm just like extra and also a little defiant. So I just come up against, we rub each other a little the wrong way, but he was the first person to like really see me and be like, you can do this and you're good at this and like don't doubt yourself. And I even got a tattoo because of him.
What is it?
It's from Measure for Measure.
Where is it?
It's on my back. And it's from a scene that I did in that class where do you know what Measure for Measure is? Anybody? I don't know. It's one of the only plays that's not a tragedy or a comedy. But it has elements of both, but no one dies and no one gets married, so it's not canonized. So basically, like, there's this Isabella's brother is like going to be in prison for his whole life, but the catch is that like the Duke's in love with Isabella, and if she just like manipulates the Duke, then he'll free her brother, and she's like, I can't do it. Like, I can't use my sexuality. I can't use my power. Like, he's gonna die in prison, blah, blah. And the court jester says this quote to her and makes her like do it. And it's, our doubts are traitors and makes us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. And it was like, that's how I felt about like acting too, where I was like, I'm inside of myself, I can't, like, I'm too afraid. And like in that class, I just fully...
That goes so much to what we were talking about today. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you journal or have any daily practice?
I've been journaling pretty much since before my letters were straight. So yeah, I journal every day. There's been like periods of time where I skip days or weeks. But
do you write like Dear Journal?
No.
Did you ever?
I did.
When did it stop?
Probably when I just had too much to unload.
Like, I don't have time for that.
I don't have time to address the formality of my journal. I need to get in. I actually recently discovered my journal from when I was 8 years old. Like when my parents were moving out of their house, my mom had kept one journal of mine from when I was a child, and like literally all my letters were backwards, and it was just like, but I wrote something so deep that I want to share it because it makes me laugh. So
8 years old.
8 years old, I had a boyfriend. I was like very fast growing up. Like I always would like pick a boy and be like, "You're my boyfriend," and like
I like how possessive you are.
I'm so crazy. And like I would like make him kiss. I would get in trouble in 5th grade for like kissing my boyfriend behind the computer. Like I was just like, I didn't have sex till I was almost 18, but I loved making out at 8 years old.
Who doesn't love to kiss?
Yeah, it's the most fun, right?
So fun.
So, anyways, I wrote Dear Diary.
There it is.
I'm in love with Michael K. The only problem is that Michael K has a weird nose. But I'm not in love with Michael's nose. I'm in love with Michael.
Whoa.
And I read that and I was like, what the fuck?
At age 8?
Yes.
That is impressive.
Like just this like both bitchy and critical but deep.
No, but you
little soul.
You were honest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the purpose of the journal, which is amazing. But you actually had the like perspective of like that doesn't fucking matter.
That's not nice stuff.
That's amazing.
So I get why my mom, she probably discovered that and was like, this is worth keeping. This little cunt.
Michael's nose, you should just remind yourself that anytime you like lose perspective. Michael's nose.
I know, whenever I'm like, he's not hot enough for me.
Michael's nose.
He was the best boyfriend. We played Jeopardy.
Do you have a helpful tip for like a deep meditation?
A helpful tip would be do less.
Less in the world or less in a practice?
Like, think about it in terms of just sitting there and, like, breathing, and then you'll be meditating.
So just be, like, easy on yourself
just, like,
and stop
chill
piling it all
out. Yeah, like, don't think of it as this thing where, like, now I'm meditating, and now I have to, like, access something. It's just, like...
Now I'm a monk.
Honestly, it's unbelievable how literally just sitting for 5 minutes and not... Even if you're just sitting and not talking, or you're just, like, staring into space, like, that's so good for you. So that's why I say, like... just do less.
That's a lovely piece of advice for people. I think people are really hard on themselves when they try
What's
and
your piece of advice for meditation?
It's a very similar version. I always tell people, just be so easy on yourself. Because I say the same thing. I tell people, like for me, when I first started meditating, it was really busy. I mean, it's still always busy in my head, but like I was going through divorce. I was like, had a crazy job. Everything just kind of sucked at that time. And there were times I'd sit there and not have even a second where it slowed down. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of 20 minutes. I could have been answering those phone calls or doing that work.
Right.
And then I always reminded myself, I actually just sat somewhere for 20 minutes and wasn't on my phone and wasn't answering emails. And so even though my brain was like insane, I got 20 minutes and that's a gift. So I try and tell people it's like a different way of saying it where at the very least it's still a gift for yourself and look at it that way. And I think then people kind of give themselves more permission of, you don't have to achieve anything. Just give yourself that little bit of gift. And at the very least, you're not doing a million things at once.
I think it's also like, when you're saying what you're saying, it's because I think we tend to do it or we try. It's like any version of self-care that you only think to do it when things are bad.
Yes.
So you're creating a mountain for yourself.
Right.
So for me, like the best thing to do is to do it when I first wake up in the morning. And then like before I go to bed. So it's like, I'm not like, oh my God, it's the middle of the day. Like because I used to kind of be like that where I'm like, I forgot to meditate. Like, can't do these emails.
And then it's hard because it's impossible not to think about all
because
that
you
shit.
actually do have shit that you're supposed to be doing.
That's like been beneficial for me too. I try and meditate now before I click on the mail icon.
Do it before.
And
the
if I
world
don't look at
needs
my
you.
email, it's changed everything.
Totally.
I'm like, there's already enough over like shit that's already waiting for me to do, which I'm already aware of. I don't need to add like 40 more things to that list before I start meditating.
Totally. 'Cause I feel like there's like two versions of me. There's like the one that functions in the world that like needs to be on email and needs to be on text and like needs everything from other people. And then there's like the version of me that wakes up in the morning and is just like, living in the trippiness of my dreams and like what's happening, and I'm just like, what the fuck? That has nothing to do with the real world, like at all. I'm like, I want to like cultivate.
It's a great space.
That space. So then it's like if I meditate right then or journal right then at least there's like something.
You're accessing something with more purity.
I mean, I don't know if it actually leads to anything, but at least it's interesting.
It does because it leads to you.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately the purpose. Oh, I got a sweet smile. All right, Elizabeth, you're up.
Oh.
You are up. Favorite doc or movie? These are yours, right?
Oh.
Yes.
Or I'm like, oh, that was
like,
3
I
people
didn't
ago.
say that.
I have 3 favorite docs. One is Unzipped, the Isaac Mizrahi doc from the 90s. Second is Truth or Dare, the Madonna doc from the 90s.
I just rewatched that recently.
And then my
So good.
third favorite is on that cult tip, The Source Family, which is phenomenal.
I have not seen
it's
that.
so good.
I'm on it.
So good. You must watch that.
Love it.
Elizabeth's cult is watching cult dogs.
Yeah.
My cult is watching reality.
Yeah.
TV.
Well, same also.
I know. That's where like people are like, what? But you're like supposed to have like be running a spiritual program. I'm like, oh God, they're one in this. I can still enjoy all the crap.
they're not mutually exclusive.
No. So favorite food, drink, or object? What can you not live without?
Well, I was going to talk about skincare, which is something that for me, I had a really tumultuous, almost just over a year of just like crazy breakouts. I could not figure out what was going on. I was seeing people left and right. And I finally found a woman who's based in Santa Monica. Her name is Jen Kramer. Her business is called Corrective Skincare LA. And this woman is like a fucking lighthouse in the storm. She just
That's a nice way to describe
really
someone.
helped me just turn it around. And I use her products. Like she has this great face shampoo, and then she makes like these salicylic acid
And you had tried
wipes.
a million people.
A
before you
million
got to her.
people, a million things. Was my alternative right before I saw her was a very, very well-known dermatologist who was a legit dermatologist, told me the only thing that was going to work for me were these I think they're called photodynamic light therapy facials. They're $600 a piece, and you basically put this cream on your face, you let that marinate for an hour, then you sit in front of a light for like 3 hours, and then you can't be in the sun for 48 hours afterwards, so you can't be in a room with windows, and then your face falls off. And she told me I would have to do 3 to 4 of them before I saw
intense.
results. And I was like,
So it's
hands up in
$2,400.
the air, just in a pile of tears. Just, really your skin. And this is something that hit me when I was 30, like in my 30s. Like I had never experienced that before. So it's just been really exciting to like have moved through that, to come out on the other side, to be able to talk about that, to help other people talk about that. And
It's also so hard because skin, as much as we always try and get above like our identity more, like when it's on your face and it's like the first thing people see, like because I went through something similar for like a year, and I remember I would just always keep my hair like down and as in front as possible. And even though I'm like, I know I'm more than this and I'm okay with it,
but it
just hurts.
It just hurts because you don't like, at least I'll speak for myself. Like I didn't know, I felt like it was something I was doing to myself that was creating that reaction. And so I was just
Like,
so tripped out about what I was consuming, what I was doing, what I was putting on my face, to the point where I was like paralyzed. I was like, I can't wash my face because that's what's doing it. Like literal, just incomplete.
So Jen
confusion.
Kramer is the magician.
Yeah, the magician.
Okay. She's the angel.
Yeah.
So what is the first thing you do when you wake up?
I say hello to the day.
I love it. Out loud or in your head?
In my head, sometimes out loud. I recently moved my bed so it's like facing the window, and I see these beautiful palm trees, and I just kind of say hi and drop in, and then I like to think about 5 things I'm grateful for just right away.
That's very similar to my morning. I do the same thing. I don't like hello. I should
Yeah.
look at it as that.
Just
For me,
like-
I do kind of like
just what's up?
yes. I like
We're
to say
here.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Like,
amazing.
open up. You're like, okay, I'm in my body.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Good.
So, what is the best worst day of your life?
We covered it earlier. The getting fired at that age was like so devastating because I didn't have the life experience to understand that it's kind of like crucial experience to become an operating human, I think, is to have like something you want taken away from you, or something you have taken away from you. And very rarely is someone's job in their 20s their job forever.
Right.
And so like
now.
that's just
So
like
fluid.
and I
Yeah.
think that because I experienced that, I've been able to help. So like I've always been the go-to person anytime somebody loses their job or like
too, by the way.
or like wants to change their jobs. Like it really like I was like became like a an unexpected expert in how to, deal with that, and also hopefully be an example for people that it can be okay, that it is okay, and it's part of life, and you'll just a momentary thing, and you'll move through it, and it will eventually lead you to what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and it's part of the whole process. And so so many gifts came from it, and
That's
when
amazing.
it happened, it was like so devastating. I felt like the rug had been completely pulled out from under me, but when that happens in life, that's usually when the most magical things come from it.
Yeah, you just have to be open.
Yeah.
You guys, I love chatting with you. And I think
love you too.
what's so amazing is you've given so many beautiful pieces of advice for people that are like struggling with identity and practice, and how to make practice just such a everyday, normal, easy thing. And that is a huge gift. So like, thank you for your perspective. And thank you guys for being so
Thanks for
funny
having us. And thanks for coming on our show. We loved your episode
Oh my God,
so
please.
much.
I love doing it.
It's called Den Mother, for those of you who want to check that out.
I
We
become a little den mother.
love it so much.
So thank you guys.
You're
And
so
don't forget,
welcome.
they're going to lead us in a personal practice, and it's a connection practice, something you can do with your friends or your family or anyone, really.
Yeah.
Can I read a poem before we do that?
Sure.
Just my favorite poem that's gotten me through all of the hardest times in my life. It's a Rumi poem. It's called The Guest
Love
House.
Rumi.
The guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
I mean, that's
I
amazing,
love
especially
that.
after the last thing you said, Elizabeth. Like, those two things could not go more perfectly hand in hand.
Look at that.
I know, you guys should work together.
Hey, yeah, let's do it.
It started here, guys. Rewrite history.
Can I produce it?
Yeah.
Done. You guys, thank you again. And now it's time for their practice.
So we love to really naturally, we've gotten to the practice of inviting or congregating our friends together for craft night. And before, we'll have food, we'll hang out, just like catch up, but then we bring everybody together and we go around in the circle and we ask everyone how they are. But then we say, how are you really? And that really allows for some deep, meaningful sharing and conversation. And then after everybody's gone around and shared, we all pull a card. And never has the card not been completely intertwined with what that person had shared. It's really spectacular.
And by card, do you mean like a tarot?
Like a tarot card. We like the Wild Unknown deck. And then we vision board afterwards.
But let's just make it clear that vision boarding, it's more of just like a choose your own adventure with 100,000 magazines in front of you.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us make like books or boxes, or like it's not just like what you're manifesting on a board. I'm very like, the vision board thing is a little like, what is this, 5th grade? So I'm more like to just create something from those images.
Because I'm just creating for you.
Totally.
So when you ask, how are you really? And you go around, is that at the same time for the person, or do you go around once, how are you? And then you go around
no,
twice?
we'll say, so it's like, how are you? So it's like, I would say like, I asked myself how I was and I thought, I'm good. How am I really? Well, and you can like go
So it's
from
like
there.
you go around, you ask it, everyone does it internally.
Yeah.
And then after that, then you go around the circle and you share. And what's also beautiful about this practice, it was actually shared with us by one of our friends, Olivia, who spends a lot of time at Essel, and so I'm assuming that that's like where this came from. What's really, I think, special about it is that the second question makes you go like much deeper and get real with yourself, because I think we're sort of conditioned like, how are you? I'm good. That's the societal like thing, and then you just kind of breeze past it. You don't actually go down. But then once you do go around the circle and you share what you said the first time and then what you said the second time, we had a lot of emotional breakthroughs and like realness coming through. And the thing that's dope about that circle is that we were encouraged not to console each other, which is something that I've never experienced before, because it's like you have to, it's not really a self-soothing thing, but it's like, just live that.
Let that person
That is just
have
big.
their whatever emotional
And not try and fix
dump
it.
that
And
they want
don't
to
try
have.
to fix it, and don't try to cut it off, and don't try to make it for yourself better before you ever like fully live the feeling.
I love this practice. So basically, you're in a circle with people you're clearly comfortable with. You internally ask yourself, how am I? How am I really? And then you go around and share, and then everyone picks a card from the tarot deck. And then after that, you guys get to go through magazines and kind of see what you're feeling.
Then we like have wine and smoke joints and like have fun.
And then the party begins.
Yeah.
I love it. Now you've emotionally purged. Now
Yeah.
you have fun.
Totally. And like the last time that we did it, we all have like spoken since then, and so many shifts have taken place for each of us because of letting that out and like giving each other permission to be like that raw and that honest. Like so, like I remember one of our friends talked about how she really wanted to work in a certain way and it wasn't happening for her, and then she like after that like 3 weeks later immediately got cast in like 3 things, and like just like
it's amazing.
It's really just about like the release. I think we just hold ourselves hostage sometimes, and we prevent ourselves from accessing the feeling that we just have available to us all the time.
Well, you guys, please do this, and if you do it, let me know how it goes, because now
Let
I'm
us
curious
know,
to know.
too.
I'm curious to know what the shifts are. So thank you for sharing.
And I would say the crafting part is optional. It's a great, it's a
it's
great
so fun.
coupling.
Last time we crafted, we did what did I sewed stuff on my jeans. Like we just get together and like free.
You're also like an unbelievably creative group.
We are all in the arts, so to speak.
We're in the
But
arts.
that doesn't mean we're all
You can do whatever you want.
creators.
I mean, my daughter comes home with like really cute robots with like macaroni all over
Yeah.
it, so why not?
Exactly.
She's a genius.
She is a genius.
Obviously.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you so much.